Okay, I've got lots of hobbies. Really, I do. I mean, okay, well, well, what about, okay, so maybe I don't have as many hobbies as I thought I did. Interesting. All right, let's talk hobbies. Hobbies are basically supposed to be something that you enjoy that's just done for fun. You're not doing it to make money. You're not doing it for a job. You're not doing it for, another person or helping. It's just something that you enjoy. Why is it as we get to be adults, that gets harder? As a kid, I remember tons of hobbies. I mean, if you count collecting rocks as a hobby, I had lots of hobbies. What I'm going to go over is, what are the hobbies? Why do we need the hobbies? And what do you actually get out of having a hobby? It's kind of a bigger deal than you think. There's nothing wrong with this being a hobby. I'm just saying, it's cough. So apparently napping, eating, drinking, maybe coffee are not considered hobbies. Like my whole world just got erased as being not a valuable asset. All right, so let's break it down. I'll go over types of hobbies in a minute, but let's look at why it's so important to have a hobby. And I'm gonna give you a quick little story. When I was doing job interviews a few years back, I remember sitting down, it was going great. I thought I was nailing it. Towards the end, we're chatting back and forth, just was getting a really cool flow. And then this question came up, and I hate this question because I never have an answer for it. What kind of hobbies do you have? What do you do for fun? And I'm just thinking, there goes that interview. Like, what am I supposed to say? My pastimes involve reading for 3 hours till 2 a.m. Yeah, I can't say that at a job interview. If I were to say the other things of, I cook dinner for my family, I do laundry, that was it. I was on the verge of just having to make something up, where you just do the whole, with the family, things get busy, but, we try to go out and have fun in nature and stuff. Not true at all. Just total blow off because I didn't have an answer. There was nothing further I could talk about outside of the job and the details of how I could do the job and why I was good for the job and past experiences I've had doing that similar job. I had nothing else to say. And you could just see the look on their face where they're just like, okay, well, I think we've wrapped this up as far as it's going to go. So thanks for coming in. Have a nice day. That stuck with me because I had done networking events when I was younger. I used to work in the wine industry. I remember meeting people and talking with people, and you get a really quick idea as to who is interesting and fun to talk to and who you want to pluck your eyelashes out because they are just so dull. They're the job, right? Once we're done talking about the job, there's no other conversation. It's just the job talk. Yeah, in a work setting, it is a really big deal to be interesting and have hobbies to talk about. They may not be everybody's cup of tea. Like if you're a rock climber, there's only a small demographic that's gonna get it. But if you have fun and you have an interesting story to tell about a time you went rock climbing, you're engaging in a conversation that can pull people in and make them go, oh wow, what happened next, right? I guarantee you that it's a little bit harder to have one of those stories when you're talking about taking the garbage out to the curb on Monday. You burned dinner on Wednesday night. Oh man, let me tell you that story. No, just no. It's a good hobby. So you might be thinking, yeah, but hey, I don't really do networking with my job stuff. I don't do all of the meet and greet stuff. Not a big deal. Not worried about it. Doesn't help me in that area. Okay. not a big deal. Here is something that I'm coming up against, and maybe you can relate to that. I got divorced 1.5 years ago, and I haven't done any dating yet. Still just kind of working on myself. But I do have little scenarios, those little what would I do in this scenario conversations, and I kind of role play in my head if I were to start dating and I went out to eat with somebody, or I went out and got coffee with someone, and I imagine what those conversations would be like. Like, oh, hey, nice to meet you. So tell me a little bit about yourself. I really don't have much I can say. This is kind of how it would run down in my head. Oh yeah, no, sorry, no job, just kind of at home between things right now. Yep, 2 kids. No real sports or anything like that. Yeah, just school stuff. Oh no, I've never eaten there before. I don't really go out to eat very often. Oh no, I haven't seen that. Yeah, I haven't been to the movies in years. Oh no, I've never been there before. Yeah, well, I guess I don't really go out very often. Yeah. And that's where you basically start shoving food in your mouth because you're absolutely bored and the conversation's going nowhere, and the other person's probably thinking like, this is boring. Maybe I'm being a little bit hard on myself. I can generally conversate pretty good, but I don't have a lot I could talk about. Tell myself, what would you want the other person to engage in a conversation with you about? What would make you get pulled in and enjoy this outing? And I know a lot of people talk about jobs and talk about work because that is a big chunk of your life. You are not your job. You are not work, right? That is a part of your life with the actions you do. That's not everything. Your conversations cannot be totally about that. And I know there are people out there who are the career, and that's what they have to talk about is everything job related. A little bit boring also. I mean, there's some people who have really entertaining jobs with some great stories. You're gonna run out in entertainable conversation pieces. Like I got nothing to talk about. I'm not even considered my own person most of the time. I'm that kid's mom. I'm that person's wife. I am the stay at home. I'm not the lady who bicycles. I'm not the woman who goes out and does karaoke. I'm not, the gal who paints. I'm not associated with any craft. Mom. And that doesn't say anything about my abilities or what I do. It just is kind of that's what I am. And the most conversations that I can get away with that are entertaining might be, oh yeah, I burned dinner on Wednesday night. Oh man, kids wouldn't go to bed. Talk about that epic battle. Oh yeah, I went in the closet and cried for an hour. It was fun. I would probably fall asleep going out on a date with me. That's not attractive. That's not engaging. That's not memorable. I want to meet somebody on a certain level, and I feel I need to be at that level of what I want to meet. I need to give what I want to get. Hobbies are a big deal. If you think about it, when you're engaging with a person and you've got nothing to say, it's because you've run out of things to talk about. And if you run out of things to talk about, it's because you haven't really done anything in a while. And if you haven't really done anything in a while, it's because there's been no opportunities that you've said yes to. And if there's no opportunities that you've said yes to, it's probably because you don't have any interests and hobbies that you're pursuing. And that basically means you're boring. Yeah, sorry. That means I'm boring. Yeah, I'm boring. Still a good hobby. Okay, let's get into the meat of it all, right? The hobbies themselves. And there's a little detail I just want to kind of touch on. There are hobbies and there are interests, and they're very similar. I would say an interest is more of a intellectual side of things. So you may not be actively seeking it out when you've got downtime to do an interest. You would actively seek out your hobby during downtime. The best definition I have for that is I'm really big into health, holistic, your body. I got onto a video talking about how your body actually goes through digesting food. Anyway, you see what I'm talking about. It's not really a hobby. I'm not doing anything, but I'm learning about something. And it would be really fun for me to talk about that with other people. again, narrow demographic that would actually engage back if I were to start talking about something. A lot of times, because I get really into it and I get really passionate about a conversation, it can be engaging and people can be entertained by it. So interests are very similar to hobbies, and I think very important to have things that you're interested in. And that's going to vary wildly for people. It could be makeup and fashion. It could be animals. It could be sports. It could be, the health, spiritual. There's a lot of different things that people can get excited about when they're talking and being very engaging in a conversation when their interest has been highlighted. That's also a great piece because hobbies will break down into 3 different areas. Intellectual, which is where you're pursuing those interests. Physical, so you're physically engaging in something. In a sport, especially if you're into like specialized type of exercise, martial arts, Pilates, yoga, like a lot of these can be really engaging and social. And then the third one would be the creative. So this is one that you hear a lot about. This one is also one more of a solo type of hobby. So this would be painting, music, knitting, sewing, flower arrangement, anything where you just kind of get a little bit more of that creative flair to it. So these 3 pieces, the intellectual, the physical, and the creative, are kind of like your perfect trifecta of becoming a more enlightened, engaging, and interesting person. Really good. You don't have to have just one hobby. You should kind of look into some of the other categories, broaden out a little bit if you don't have any interests or hobbies in those ones. So you might be saying, I have hobbies. I have a lot of hobbies, but they're all really boring and it's not really something I can talk about. What do I do then? Yeah, there are a lot of really weird hobbies out there that are hard to talk about. For example, a really big pastime hobby has been knitting and crochet. People love it. It's all over the place. It's super engaging if you're in a circle of other people who also crochet and knit to talk about what you're knitting and crocheting. If you're talking to somebody outside that circle, so it's a little bit harder to engage with people that aren't as familiar with that. What can you do to up your interest level if you have a hobby like crocheting? Say you crochet cute little animals. Those are super fun and adorable on their own, sure. But what if you were to learn about crocheting and get that interest about the history of crocheting, the different types of yarns, the different types of needles, the different types of techniques? Where did it come from? Where did it start? Where did it get famous? Where are some big events that take place with that? Can you go to events or conventions or crafting fairs? Can you sell your items? Can you, make them and take them to shelters or senior homes or to pet shelters? What can you take that hobby out into the world? So if you're just sitting at home watching rom-coms, drinking a glass of wine, munching a bowl of popcorn between, crafting something, and it just is going to add to your collection of 50 items on the wall behind you, that's a little bit harder. But if you take it to that next level, where you get to talk about your craft, your history of the craft, why you chose the different things that you did to make it engaging, what you did with it, how you engaged in the world, it just instantly becomes so much more from the same hobby. And that's really cool. Don't underestimate the power of your hobby when you set it free. I'm not saying monetize it. I'm not saying turn it into a job, because then that takes away the fun part of the hobby. But I know a lot of women who get together and they crochet hats all year round, only to donate them to the shelters in November every year. They just have little get-togethers once a week, crocheting, socializing, visiting, and then they have a project that they're actually achieving with that hobby, which is really cool. Good conversation piece. Some hobbies that I have worked on in the past, I guess I never thought of them as hobbies. One would be flowers. I love to arrange flowers. I don't get them very much anymore. I have a hard time engaging in hobbies that seem frivolous or cost a lot of money or waste a lot of money, because to me, I've spent too long having tight finances to use the little bit that is extra towards a hobby that's just for me. I'll go do something for the kids, or I would do something for the family. That cut down on a lot of things that I may have been interested in. The interesting thing about flowers is when you have flowers and you arrange flowers, the next step for a lot of people who do flower arranging is to dry the flowers. But once you spend all that time buying flowers, arranging flowers, drying flowers, and pressing flowers, you have to figure out what to do with all the flowers. That is where that hobby can get out of control a little bit. And you know, you can make arrangements with dried flowers, put some in vases, put some, you know, hanging up in decorations, but eventually you're gonna run out of places to put those flowers or ideas to use those flowers with. And then you have a hobby that's kind of taking over. So that's one of my big concerns, I guess, when I engage in a hobby is what do I do with it afterwards? So I love to read. It's one of my main hobbies. I'd probably say my only real hobby. And obviously I don't buy books anymore, but that used to be a problem. Is I'd have bookshelves filled with books and that collects and grows. But I do most of my reading on my tablet. So I do miss it. I love the feeling of opening a book and turning the pages and seeing it waiting for me on you know, by my chair. Another thing I used to engage in for a hobby when I was going to college was photography. Loved photography. I mean, I am talking, I would be lost to the world in the darkroom for hours. That definitely took a backseat once I started working and careers and jobs because there just wasn't time. There wasn't time to play around with photography. And I think that's why I'm having so much fun with this YouTube channel is I get to do editing and filming and being a little bit more creative with that. I do spend hours and hours and hours editing my film. I guess I could kind of say that this is becoming a little bit of a hobby as well. And I do like that. That is very fulfilling. I need to overcome my stigma that hobbies are frivolous and should have purpose, because the ones I do enjoy, I've accepted, you know, is frivolous, but there's still like a tiny piece that I can say, oh, well, this is benefiting me because I'm reading. So I'm intellectually growing. My brain power is increasing because I do reading. But I mean, honestly, they're not high level books most of the time. I do love those, but those aren't my evening books. They're usually some sort of sci-fi fantasy nonsense, another world escapism where it's just fun. That's nice. I like that. I would love to find that in another hobby. So my goal for myself for this next month is I'm going to be picking out 3 new hobbies that I want to test out. So the first one is going to be in the intellectual section. I think that maybe I'm going to pursue something that is through like Skillshare or Udemy, or, you know, something where I'm actually taking a course and fully learning how to do something new. Maybe it'll be with my editing, my software, filming, something like that. Maybe it'll be something totally different that I have never even considered. My next one is going to be in the physical category. I have been taking my walks. I have been doing some mild exercise, but it is definitely for the weight loss side of things. I want to push my boundaries a little bit and take a class somewhere, which terrifies me. I don't like sweating and exercising in open public spaces with other people. But I think that it'll be really good for me and it'll really push me out of my comfort zone. I'll get a benefit, which makes my brain happy. And I'll also be learning something in a social setting where I have to actually talk to people and engage with people. So maybe like a Zumba class. That could be fun. Or like a martial arts for self-defense. I don't know, we'll see. And then the last one, something creative. I definitely don't want to take on any more flowers. I'm kind of running out of space for what to do with flowers. As much as I love gardening, the season's coming to an end. I would like to do some painting and it'll be freestyle. I took a lot of art classes back when I was a teenager and I didn't have a talent for it, but I do remember enjoying it because it is extremely creative how you get to interpret whatever it is you've decided to do. I've definitely played with the girls doing painting stuff, but I want to do something for myself where I'm not putting together a project for them to work on and I just stay busy while they're doing theirs. I want it to be something where I'm actually just for me engaging in some sort of free painting style. So we'll see. I think I'll do another video next month talking about the different hobbies that I took on, kind of some thoughts of how I feel. So take a look at what's going on around you. You'd be really surprised what's considered a hobby and what you might already be doing that you could just kind of level up a little bit more, become a more interesting person, really take your hobby and let it grow, let it bloom a little bit, open up a little bit, have fun. And it doesn't have to be every time you do the hobby. Like you can take turns with how big and how small you do that. And it'll add so much interest, and test it out. Notice your conversations the next time you talk with somebody. What are you talking about? What are they talking about? Was it interesting? Did it bore you out of your mind? Thanks for watching. Really appreciate it.